We are back with the Fox News Alert. A violent and bloody weekend in Chicago has ended with at least 10 people dead and at least 63 others shot in total. One Chicago paramedic describing the city as a war zone. The number of shootings this weekend alone, unbelievable, Brian.
Yep, between Friday and Sunday, 63 people were shot. 10 of those victims passed away. One of them, a 17-year-old boy, he was doing this thing called riding a bike.
Wow, 34 of the 63 were shot between Saturday and Sunday morning alone, and 25 people were wounded within a 2.5-hour period. Most of the shootings were gang-related and targeted large crowds.
Let's bring in Dan Bongino, former New York City cop, former Secret Service agent, host of the Dan Bongino Show. Dan, we were talking in the last hour to a fella, LaShawn Ford. He's a Democrat, state lawmaker out in Chicago, and he said, look, Chicago is not a Trump-free zone. We are desperate to have the president help us because the mayor is not doing the job.
Yeah, you know, Steve, I remember being a New York City police officer in one of the tougher areas in New York, crime-wise at the time, the 7-5 precinct in East New York. And one of the things that really touched me, I was a really young man at the time, just coming into my, trying to figure out the world for myself, was all the good folks that came outside in an area that was really high crime at the time and said, please, help us. This guy on the corner, he's slinging drugs. I can't be seen talking to you, but will you do something, please, anything? Steve, this is our country. These are American citizens, too. They deserve better than this. I mean, look at the picture. I was reading an article this morning about this crime wave in Chicago, and there's a picture of this young lady, Janae Patterson. Just look at the picture, 17 years old. Look at that picture. That poor woman will never take another breath of oxygen again. Her life is over at 17. All of the pleasures and wonders of life she will never experience. And it makes you say to yourself, gosh, listen, I'm not going to make a cheap political argument about this. This is not the time for that. But I'll say this. Maybe it's time for new leadership and new people. I'm not suggesting that Democrats or the Republicans have all the answers here, but maybe it's time for new people. You deserve better.
Dan,
you are American citizens, too. It's your country.
New York City was a mess. Law enforcement needed to be revamped. They had to have a different philosophy, and stop and frisk was part of it, so they revamped things in the 90s. I remember the L.A., I was there during the riots when they had to revamp their entire police force, got rid of management, and, most people say the LAPD is much more respected now and certainly more effective. Can you do something like that? If success leaves clues, does New York and Los Angeles leave clues?
What's the old expression, right? Copy genius, don't invent mediocrity. I was a police officer when Rudy Giuliani came in with Bill Bratton, Brian. You probably remember this as well. And they said, listen, broken windows. What is broken windows? It means, you see a broken window, you fix it. You don't wait for the building to fall down. In other words, you see a guy jumping a turnstile to get on a train free in New York, which you remember in the day happened all the time. They used to let him go. We're here for the more serious crimes. You squeegee guys, I've got news for you. The guy who jumped the turnstile was the guy who later committed the more serious crime. So you don't let him go for jumping the turnstile. You run his name, you find out he's got a warrant, he spends the night in jail, and then he doesn't rob someone on the subway. In Chicago, it's time to let the cops be cops. Those people there deserve better. These are American citizens living in a place with zero opportunity where you could walk out of your house and be killed. That 17-year-old girl deserved this shot at life. This is a stain on our country. And you know what? I encourage the president to get involved. We have an FBI there, a DEA. Let's start these task forces up again, and let's clean those streets up for them if Chicago's not willing to do it themselves.